Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Nonprofit Show. This is Friday, our Ask and Answered, as Jarrett Ransom, my co-host, always likes to call it, Friday. And today we're really excited because we have Pearl Hoagland, who is the actual director of Fundraising Academy at National University. So she's like what we like to call in my family the Gran Queso. Welcome.
I like it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Pearl, this is really fun. We were saying in the green room chatter that we have your team members on. They do amazing work for us. They bring us a different vibe, different information. And so it's really cool to have you take time out of your super busy schedule to come and talk to us. And I'm really appreciative of that. I'm hoping that we get to have you on more and more as our months go forward. And I think we're gonna wrangle you into more episodes. So what say you on that?
I'm ready for it.
Okay, again, I'm Julia Patrick. I've been joined by Pearl Hoagland. We want to make sure we thank all of our presenting sponsors: Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Your Part-Time Controller, Nonprofit Nerd, Fundraising Academy at National University, Staffing Boutique, and Nonprofit Thought Leader. If you have missed any of our episodes or you want to share some of our episodes, you can always get to more than 600 episodes on Roku, YouTube, Amazon Fire TV, Vimeo, and we are also now in podcast. So we have close to a couple hundred of our episodes now on podcast format, and every episode that we do is actually converted into a podcast now. So cue us up wherever you like to get your streaming, and we'll be with you. Okay, Pearl, we're going to start with a question that came in for you. And I thought this was really interesting. Now, I got to man up and say that this was actually asked of me personally. I was at an event where the AFP group of my community was gathering and going over the Giving USA report. And somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, Julia, how does this happen?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, but I know who knows." So, long story, let's get to the question. How does one go about becoming a trainer for Fundraising Academy? The system is quite sound and something other development professionals need to know about. Also, could I do this and keep my current job?
I love this question. It's so nice to hear experts in the field want to be a part of our program because I love this program. So, yes, first of all, we absolutely have instructor opportunities. You just connect with me and we can absolutely share my contact information. And yes, you can keep your current job. So the way that we work with fundraising leaders is we have webinars that we offer that are free every single month. Sometimes we have workshops, trainings, and we really like to have diverse voices. So having different instructors allows us, as you were saying earlier, Julia, getting different perspectives from the field. It brings life to our curriculum and it helps our students hear from different voices, hear from different perspectives, and identify with something. So connect with me. It's not full time, it's when you're available, and we can talk about a webinar, whatever that looks like. So yes, we would love to work with you.
So let me ask a few more questions about that. Are you now more in a digital environment versus going to actual communities and doing this, IRL in real life? Or how has your instructing methodology changed?
That's a great question. In the last 2 years, yes, we have really leaned into digital. However, we still offer live. So we can offer a virtual, if we have 30 people in a certain region that want to go through our online cause selling accelerate, for example, we can make that happen.
Okay.
We also have affiliate partners who have programs around that will offer them to the community. So the decisions we make about in-person versus virtual right now are really around protocols, safety, comfort levels. But I will share, we do have an online cause selling accelerate that we are accepting applications for that launches
Right.
in September.
Right, which we want to get into. Let me ask you this. Are you looking for, like, when you work in this environment, are you looking for people that, let's say, are specific to a certain sector within the nonprofit? We generally think there are 9 sectors with, drill downs within the nonprofit world. Are you looking for people, let's say, that are from arts and culture versus science versus education, or what does that look like?
It's a great question. We want anyone. If you
Okay.
are a seasoned fundraiser and can really
Okay.
speak to individual giving, I will share some of the things that are important to us, our organizational size, partially because there are different tools that you use, potentially different experiences, and
Okay.
representation is so important to us in every single way, including geographic. So
I
yes, 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 yes.
It's so interesting because this country of ours is so diverse and different, and it has its own funky nuances.
Yeah,
And so I'll tell you, for me personally, that's one of the things that's interesting about the nonprofit show for me, is that when we have guests on from different parts of the country and the world even, but especially in our own country, they say different things and things work a little differently in
yeah,
their region.
yeah,
And so I was kind of just, that was more my own curiosity. So, name
yeah.
withheld from Mesa, Arizona. I know who you are. I hope that this helps you out, and I hope we are able to connect you up with Pearl.
Yes.
Okay, well, that was really cool and an unexpected question, but thank you, Pearl, for sharing kind of the insider track. Hey, Adam from Las Vegas writes, should we be reporting our DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion stats to stakeholders? We are starting a transparency tab on our website, and I think this might be good info. This is not flying with some of our leadership. They think it's too personal and identifies people. Wow, that's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting thought. What do you say on this?
I love that the conversation is happening. I have lots of questions. One, I would love to know, first of all, I'm excited to hear that you want to have this transparency. I'd love to know the intention behind the transparency, just having that candid conversation of one, why does the organization want to post it? Is it because we want to ensure that transparency? Is it PR? Just to really know what your intention is and hold true to it, so that if you are committed to DEI and you're taking those steps intentionally.
Mhm.
As in regards to leadership, I would have a candid conversation about, are we serious about this or not?
Yeah.
And depending on who that leadership is, if it's the board, is it still the right fit for your organization's direction?
Yeah.
If it's your leadership, is the organization going in the direction you want to go in? I think a lot of questions have to be asked. If this is going to really help your community, gosh, that's awesome. And I really hope that you and leadership can get on the same page and make and have that step. I don't know what the downside is of posting stats. I'll share that. I think it's wonderful.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, that's an right there. That's an interesting comment for me. Well, when I read this question, I thought of Chris Babalak, who was a guest of ours on the nonprofit show several weeks ago with Chazen and Company. And we also did a series of instructional videos for Chazen and Company called Counting on Chazen. And one of the things that they recommended, and he was really behind, was a transparency page. But what was fascinating is, and this is because they're accountants, it was all financial transparency.
Right. Which is important.
So, which is great. But I gotta say, I hadn't looked at it this way.
Hmm.
I hadn't thought about all these other things that you want to report, but that they might not have a home, you know,
Yeah.
but they're cool
Yeah.
to report.
I think, as we're talking about this, my other question is, or it sounds like this organization is doing work in marginalized communities potentially. So if doing this is going to do good for them,
Yeah.
or will it do harm? That's honestly, I think, the biggest question. What is your end game in doing this? It sounds like it's a wonderful initiative.
Yeah.
How will it impact the communities you serve? Is leadership in the position to make that determination, or are there other people you need to speak with to understand what this impact will be? I think that's the main thing, is where's leadership coming from, really? And yeah.
Do you think maybe leadership's embarrassed or they don't feel like their numbers are good and so that's why they don't want to share it?
Ooh, it could be that. I didn't know if it was based on stakeholders. Um, I wasn't sure. That's a good question.
I mean,
That's a great
let's
question.
let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah, wow. That
you
I
know,
didn't think about that.
yeah, I remember years ago I was doing a board training and for a group, and they served a Hispanic population, and the board called me in, and I was at their offices, and they were a pretty significant organization, and they did not have one person on their board that could speak Spanish.
I was about to ask, what is the representation on the board?
And I was like,
Yeah,
"Dónde está?" I was like, "Hello." And you
yeah,
know what? They had never thought of it.
yeah,
I mean, so it wasn't malicious. It it wasn't without intention. I think it was without attention, meaning
yeah,
they hadn't attended to the knowledge of us, and they were doing great work. But wow,
yeah.
hello,
It's such an important conversation that when you're speaking, you're doing work, are the people that you're working with a
yeah,
part of your organization and a part of the decision making? Absolutely,
yeah,
because then those spots, those blind spots, hopefully you don't have those, or maybe you still do, but at least you have the people in the room who may be more informed about certain things than you are.
right, yeah, it's fascinating. Well, Adam, I really hope that this has kind of given you some help and given you some ideas. I mean, I love, as Pearl mentioned, that you're starting a transparency tab on your website, and I really encourage us as a sector to be looking at this.
Yeah,
It can go so far, and we really need to hear back from you, Adam, to see what has transpired. Because good
yeah,
for you. Wow.
I
Okay,
agree.
let's go to another. Oh, name withheld from St. Petersburg, Florida. Okay, I do not know this. I do. So, would you please give us a salary range for development officers? We're trying to become more competitive in our salaries and benefit packages. Well, yay, team, that you're
Yes,
looking at this.
yes.
Wow. Okay, Pearl, I have no idea. I got to man up. I can't. I can't really participate in this other than to say, don't get caught up in the actual dollar amount of what that salary is, but really, really pay attention to the benefits. And those benefits that we're seeing that seem to spark more interest: personal development,
Mhm.
more work from home opportunities, training, travel. I mean, things that make the ecosystem better. And
Yeah.
I don't know what you're seeing, but I'd love to get your feedback on this.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. And also, dear name withheld, thank you, because clearly the culture that you're creating at your organization is one that many would want to be a part of. I agree with you, Julia. And back to the question of a salary range, it's so dependent on your location, your organizational size, cost of living. There's so many different factors that could inform that range. There are two resources that I'd like to help point you in the direction of, which are AFP has a compensation report, and
Okay.
Candid also does, candid.org.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah, but talking about the benefits, I agree with you. Some of an organization may not be able to meet the salary that their candidate wants, but what other benefits could then
Mhm,
tip the scale? Like you said, flexibility, culture of the organization,
mhm,
um, opportunities for development and growth. There's so many different things that if an organization really is tied to a certain number,
mhm.
to be open to creating an experience and a package, as we say, that
Yeah.
candidate would want.
Yeah. I never thought about using that word culture um, in this discussion, and I like that. Like talking about what is it on a humanistic level
Mhm.
that you can expect to be in, what kind of environment, how is this going to feed your soul and your family.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I think that's a cool thing, and wow, what an interesting thing to articulate in
Yeah.
a narrative on a job description, and a job offer, and wow, I don't even know if I really can say I've seen that very much.
One thing I will share that in my role serving on our local AFP board is there's a lot of discussion about transparency with job descriptions. So one more thing to think about as you post a job description, think through transparency with your salary. Can you just put it straight into the job description and what that competitive package looks like? And think through what tools you're accessing to. What are you requiring in your job description? Are you creating an accessible job description that will really bring in a diverse, strong pool? So things like that just to consider as you're hiring, where this, who are you opening this up to, and what talent can you get with that?
Right, right. Which I would imagine, Pearl, for some organizations, that's going to be a little bit of a stretch and maybe uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a one size fits all, of course.
So when you're thinking about development officers, I mean, and this person from St. Petersburg, Florida, writes specifically for a development team. What are your thoughts? Getting just really different people to make up that team so that you have representation, or following more towards like-minded people who are kind of trained up at that same level as the rest of your team? I mean,
Oh
that's
gosh.
kind of I don't know, the answer to that.
I don't. Well, I have thoughts and questions. I think it does depend on mission. I think the missional alignment and soft skills are so
Okay.
important. Can
Okay.
the technical skills, can they be trained?
Okay.
So I personally, soft skills, drive, uh, the connection between people, can they work together, and a connection to the mission. I would say for me, I look to that first. Of course, technical experience is important,
Hmm.
but when you're looking at it all, it's not the only part of the equation.
Right. Yeah. I like that you pointed that out. I think that's really, that's awesome. Because the other thing of it is, it's like bringing in, a new sibling into your family. When you bring somebody in, it's like, you know, is this family going to be happy? I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of, don't you think? Because
Oh yeah.
I know that, development teams, they work independently a lot and all that. But man, I think those teams can be really, me, me, me,
Oh yeah. Oh, you have to, I mean, you have to respect each other
yeah.
because donors will see that, other staff will see that, and that will impact the culture. And you spend a lot of time together, even if it's virtually, you spend a lot of time together. You need to enjoy working together and at least respect each other.
Right. So before I go off this, I have had a couple, it seems like it had fallen out of favor and now it's back in favor. I've been hearing more and more about teams that are actually, let's say HR, if it's that big of an organization, or the hiring manager gets the candidates, that they narrow it down, figure out who's the best. And then they're putting those people in front of the actual team and,
Mm-hmm.
and getting them to interview, which is one I think is great, but in the other way, those teams aren't necessarily trained or
Mm-hmm.
knowledgeable of how to do this process. So, can you give us some feedback on what you think about that?
Yeah, so knowing that so I've been a part of that. I've definitely been in both types of environments.
Yeah.
Personally, I have enjoyed the where you do meet the team prior and you kind of get to see. Of course, HR can provide very specific guidelines. You want to be sure that everyone knows what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
But you want to see if people can get along because for both the candidate and the team, if it's clearly not the right fit, it's you're going to be spending a lot of money in hiring and then rehiring.
Yeah.
So personally, I think it's a really great. Here's my question. What are you worried about with the team and why are you worried about that? Because if you're
Mm.
concerned about how they're going to handle that
Yeah.
situation, they're handling donors. So,
I like that. Well, and it almost speaks to, can you do a mini train up on what that looks like and what's appropriate to ask, and why are you doing this? And to your point, I love that you phrased that, ask the question why, and,
yeah.
and what's the genesis of that decision. But yeah, I think it's an interesting way to go. And good for, like you said, good for them for trying to figure out what's going to make them better and stronger. And maybe that next level is to dig a little deeper and
Yeah.
figure out the health of the team. Because shoot, that's a big problem in development. I think I really am.
Yeah.
I really do think that. Okay, well, let's go on to our next question, and it's an interesting one. It comes to us from Lily in Rochester, New York. We're considering making a CFRE designation a requirement in development job descriptions. We're trying to expand our development staff and not sure if this should be a requirement or not. Also, we don't want to limit the market available for application. Well, CFRE is probably got pockets like where in a community it's stronger and more, I don't want to use the word popular, but part of the journey versus other communities.
Yeah. First of all, Lily, I'm glad you're asking the question before moving forward. So we are a CFRE education provider. We,
Okay.
I believe it's really wonderful for your career to get the CFRE.
Mhm.
So just as a side note there, I really support people pursuing their CFRE. A lot of our instructors have pursued their CFRE.
Mhm.
And when you go through our programs, you earn education points towards it. So all that to say, I'm a fan of the CFRE. I also recognize it's not the most accessible for everyone. Getting the education that you need can be really expensive, which is why we offer it for low cost. But, and on top of that, you have specific fundraising benchmarks you have to meet, and then you have to pass a test, which I've heard is very challenging. It's funny, I was talking, actually, our team, we talk a lot about all these questions that we've talked about. We have had these conversations. So a lot of what I've shared has actually come from the knowledge of my team. And one person recently, we were talking about the CFRE and they mentioned not everyone's a good test taker. So if you
Yeah.
if you limit, and it's expensive. So my question actually would be, instead of, yes, you absolutely will limit your application pool.
Mhm.
And people who don't pursue their CFRE have incredible experience that they could contribute to your organization.
Mhm.
Besides being a wonderful test taker and having gone through that process,
Right.
are you just maybe consider, instead of doing this, are you making CFRE an option for your staff? Are you paying for it? Are you supporting if they want to pursue it? I would
Wow.
actually take a look at your own educational opportunities and consider, instead of this route, maybe try to upskill your staff unless you're already doing it. But that would be my first question. You could say CFRE preferred,
Yeah, I love that. So
but
let's back up certified fundraising executive.
mhm,
So it is a professional global organization. They're super strong in the US
mhm,
and Canada, but they are growing in Australia,
yeah,
New Zealand, and the United Kingdom, obviously. Any group that speaks English, But I think they also have a foothold. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but now, like in Korea.
oh
And
wow, I didn't know that.
you know what? I need to verify that, but I think I did hear that. But I like that you're saying that is, making it accessible to that educational point of it, to kind of help go back even to the previous questions about benefits and opportunities that could be part of your package. In other words, saying, look,
Yeah,
we support this, and
how amazing would that be if you could offer that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one quick thing before we move on. I think it's really an interesting thing to understand how you're going to, as an organization, are you going to pay for these things? Are you going to reimburse? Are you going to match? Are you going to, adjust
Mhm.
for the salary? You're going to
Yeah.
have to kind of think about some of these things
Yeah.
because it's a pretty big discussion. It really, really is.
Yeah.
Wow, Lily, thank you. I I'm fascinated by those questions. And again, I think you need to know what's going on in your neck of the woods. I really, really do. Pearl, before we let you go, I would love it if you could talk briefly, we don't have a lot of time, but about your new cohort that's coming up, because I'm fascinated by this. Talk to us about what the Cause Selling Accelerate is.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll do it quickly because I know we're short on time.
No,
But
that's good.
to share about why we even have this program, we've talked a little bit about organizational budgets, and often professional development budgets are the most challenging for organizations to retain. Those limited funds tend, in my experience, to be allocated more for senior level staff. So that leaves the new generation of fundraisers who are new to this role, want to learn, and often have to learn on the job, or learn from their leaders who had to learn on the job. So sometimes bad habits can be formed. And I kind of consider it a professional development desert for emerging fundraising leaders. There's a lot of great professional development out there, often a huge financial investment, and not necessarily designed for the emerging fundraiser. It's things that I remember walking out and saying, this would be so wonderful for me in 5 years when I'm leading my team. So this online cause selling accelerate is designed to give you tools right now. You can literally leave every single session and do everything you learned in that session. It's for emerging fundraising leaders. It's a 10-week course. There is out of session work, and every session is live. It builds off of everything you learned so that you can really action out how you're going to apply it to your role. I went through this program as a fundraiser 7 years ago, and before I joined the team, and it was transformational for my career. I'll just share that I graduated from this program and made my first $500,000 successful ask from a donor who was not even engaged and not even at the $5,000 level. And it was because of this program. So I just want, I can attest to the success of this program. So it's a 10-week course. We are extending the deadline. We have a few spots available, and we want to fill it fully so that it's a true cohort experience. Sessions begin September 13th. I have amazing team members who are available. I can answer questions. They can answer questions. But yeah, you basically join a cohort of 30 people who will validate the experiences you're having, will have new experiences and best practices they can share. And our incredible instructor, Hannah Berger, will be leading the full cohort.
Great. And just to kind of amplify what you've said, you have to apply. You're not just taking any live body. So you're really building a cohort in that you're trying to figure out when you plug in the participants that it's going to be a good fit for everyone, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And we definitely accept a wide variety of backgrounds and experiences. We just want to be sure it's the right fit for the cohort and that participant.
Right. Now, you said that the deadline's moved forward. What's that new deadline? Do you know?
It is now September 6th.
Okay, awesome.
So we're pushing it all the way back just to allow enough time. I will also share that it's all around individual giving. So how to bring more donors to your organization.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, Hannah Berger, I think she was just on last week. She's been great. And so, I can't imagine what a great experience that's going to be. 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
Offsite work is entailed, and then you get to be with that group. I kind of imagine that maybe you build some camaraderie that goes beyond that 10 weeks, right?
I mean, I took the program 7 years ago, and I'm still connected to a lot of my cohort peers. It is such a strong network that forms. Surprisingly, through this virtual world, it hasn't impacted that ability to develop those relationships, and a national peer set too.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's super important. Well, Pearl Hoagland, Director, Fundraising Academy at National University, she has been our ask and answer guru today, and it has been such a joy to have you on with us. I always love your energy and the spirit with which you tackle these questions and you look at our sector organically and as a whole. It's really fabulous. I love every one of your team members. It's always a cool thing. And what's really interesting is they are all very different.
They're all very different. I love that.
They're not just kind of saying the same thing out of the book, so to speak. And they have their own genuine approach, but that it fits into the culture of what you do. And so, wow, what an incredible and rare treat that is to be a part of. Again, we want to thank all of our sponsors who are with us day in and day out. Bloomerang American Nonprofit Academy, Your Part-Time Controller, Nonprofit Nerd, Fundraising Academy at National University, Staffing Boutique, and Nonprofit Thought Leader. These are the folks that join us day in and day out so that we can bring you more than 600 episodes of the Nonprofit Show. So we are incredibly, incredibly grateful for this support. And as we march forward into another busy time of the year, it's even more important that we thank these sponsors. Hey, Pearl, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm totally jazzed and excited. I have a meeting at 1 o'clock with a fundraising executive who just called me up and said, can you have lunch and can we talk about a few things? And I'm going to use some of the things that you said today at,
Oh,
at this lunch because I think it's been really enlightening and it just kind of the stars aligned. So that'll be fun.
oh, I'm so glad.
Thank you. Hey, everybody, as we like to remind everybody, and I think ourselves, stay well so you can do well. Pearl, thank you so much.